to the Connected Mom podcast, where we have real conversations that help you to connect with God more deeply, help you to connect with your friends more empathetically, and more intentionally with your child. And I'm excited about today's conversation. Arlene Pellicane probably has one of the best smiles I've ever seen in my life. So be sure to check out the video because she's always smiling.
Oh, you're making me smile.
Right. Well, she is a speaker. She is the host of the Happy Home podcast, which makes sense because she smiles all the time. You know, we'll get into that in a minute. Maybe she smiles all the time at home too. I don't know. But anyway, she has been a guest on the Today Show, Fox and Friends, Focus on the Family, Family Life Today, the 700 Club, and the Wall Street Journal. You know, I have not been on the Wall Street Journal. Clearly, because I can't get it out of my mouth succinctly. Anyway, she is going to be so much fun today. And today we are talking about her brand new book, Making Marriage Easier. Now, I know you're thinking, well, why would I need to make my marriage easier? It's a breeze all the time. You know, if your marriage is a breeze all the time, then probably Arlene and I can't really relate to you, even though we've both had good marriages and I've been married now for 45 years. It hasn't always been breezy or easy. So welcome, Arlene.
It's so good to be with you. I love this. Easy and breezy, not exactly.
Yes, easy and breezy, not exactly, right? And you know, the thing is, we all got married and we thought, okay, this is a piece of cake. I have this down. And then real life happens, right? So before we get into that, Arlene, tell us a little bit about your family right now. What are the ages of your kids and all that good?
Yes, my husband and I have been married for 26 years. We wanted to have children, but I had a little bit trouble having kids. So I struggled with infertility for a little bit. And so when we did have Ethan, it was very exciting. We have 3 children. So Ethan is about ready to graduate from college. Noelle is our 18-year-old. She is in college, and Lucy is 15. She's a sophomore in high school. So we have 2 college and 1 high school boy, girl. And we are crazy about our children. So as we talk about marriage, you must know my heart is also like yours, like the average mom that's like, oh, I love my kids so much.
I know. When I became a mom, I just remember, like, after giving birth to my first child, they told me, okay, now you can go back to sleep. And I thought, you're insane. I just gave birth to this beautiful baby. I want to sit here and hold her and look at her, you know? But you know, adding children to our marriage is a whole thing too. But before we get there, you know, you talk in the book about 4 key marriage decisions that actually make marriage easier. What are those decisions, Arlene?
Yeah. As I'm thinking about these 26 years we've been married, it's like, you know what? This has not been the hard that people have talked about. I haven't been miserable the whole time. So I was trying to reverse engineer, like, what is it that made marriage easier? And so these 4 decisions, they're very simple. They're for anyone. I am not a superhero. I am not super spiritual. Anyone can do this. Decision number 1 is play by the rules. Know what are God's commandments for the family, for marriage, for children, all these things, and follow them. So make decisions, and don't go by your feelings. Don't go by like, oh, I don't feel like it. No, you make decisions and you play by the rules. So that way you can keep playing this game called marriage for your whole life. So play by the rules. The second decision is to give thanks every day. That when you married that man, you were super thankful, right? Like, thank you, God, that he exists. Thank you, God, that he loves me, you know. So how do we live in light of that thanksgiving, both to God? God, thank you for giving me this man. Thank you that you are with us in this present moment in our marriage. And hey, I'm going to keep looking for ways to appreciate this man. So give thanks. The third decision is to serve your spouse. You know, when we do the opposite, when we go like, well, what have you done for me today? Like, we're very miserable, right? We complain. Well, my husband didn't take me on vacation. My husband would never do that. My husband doesn't help me with the dishes. So we become very like, I do all the service, you do nothing. And we get in this bad place. But if we will recalibrate and say, well, you know what? Jesus came as a servant. And hey, those biggies in the Old Testament, Moses, Daniel, David, they're all called the servant of God. So it's like a promotion when you are called the servant of God, and to realize that, you know what, I should serve and I will do it joyfully. And it just looks, I'm not talking about like being abused or being all walked over. So please don't misunderstand me. I'm talking about like a wife that says, hey, honey, how could I help you today? Is there anything I could do to make your life easier? And he probably will just say, if you could just give me a hug, that'd be great. So our attitude is serve your spouse. And then the last decision number 4 is take fun seriously. So we were, when you begin, you're very fun, right? It's like everything is fun. Going on errands is fun. Everything's fun. But after you're married for a while, you're like, well, we have to have money to have fun and we just don't have it in the budget. Or we have to have time and we don't have time. We've got bills. We've got things to do. So just someday we'll have fun. And then no wonder you're like, we don't like each other very much anymore. Well, when was the last time you had fun together? So you really have to actually invest time and a little bit of money to have some fun. And it's important. So take fun seriously.
I love that. Steve and I have been married for 45 years, and we often go on vacation to Costa Rica, which is my husband's happy place. I call him my jungle boy because he grew up in the jungle of Africa, a missionary kid. And one year when we were there a couple of years ago, we rented what's called a mud jeep. So what it is it's like a dune buggy with no top or sides on it, and they take you through rivers. I mean, you come back a wreck, Arlene. There's mud from head to toe. But we laughed so hard together, and just this last year when we were there, my husband said to me, he said, Beck, thank you so much that you love to go on these crazy vacations with me. So I want to applaud that part. Keep the fun in your marriage. Life is heavy. You're going to go through heavy stuff, but keep the fun there, Be willing to laugh together and laugh at each other and with each other, because humor covers over a lot of hard things.
And kudos to you, because in one way it's like, okay, you just have to sit there, right? In the mud jeep. But in another way, a lot of ladies would be like, well, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not getting so dirty from head to toe. Like, I don't think that's fun. I think that's like so scary, right? So a lot of it too is it's not your favorite thing to do, but you're willing to try it. Like if you like it, I'll try it. Like I can take a shower afterward. I could do this. So sometimes it's just us talking ourselves into I could do that. I could do that.
And I'm glad you brought that up because my kids gave me kudos because I'm a very clean person. I'm not really the person that likes to hike through the mud, I'm not really a mud girl. I'm more of a bling girl, give me the jewelry. But it was a blast to do that with Steve. And he was so happy, he loved it. So definitely keep the fun in your marriage. And then you talk about embracing discomfort. And I mean, that doesn't sound like fun. So what do you mean by that, Arlene?
Yes. When we are uncomfortable, it's like, I haven't done this before, or I don't know what the outcome will be, or I feel foolish or embarrassed or whatever it is. But it is those moments that we learn something new and we grow. So my discomfort story that really sticks out in my mind is when we were first married in Dallas, Texas, new city, for me, it was where my husband found work. And we were going to the Arboretum. Well, that sounds lovely enough. So we paid our tickets, walked through the flowers. We were there for about 2 hours and we're walking. And my husband says, oh, look through the fence. There's our car. Like there was the parking lot, right? But you have to walk a long distance to the entrance to leave. So he's like, why don't we just climb the fence to get out and get to our car? Because it'd be so easy and it'd be right there. And I'm like, why would we climb over a fence? Like I don't climb over fences. It was about, 8 feet tall. It's like this fence. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. But he talks me into it because he says, it's going to take us a long time to go around. He puts his hands in, my foot goes in, up and over I go. I'm a tall girl. I'm 5'8". I'm up and over. One leg is on one side, one leg is on the other. And I get stuck at the top and I start to cry. And I'm just like, why am I here? I can't get down. And now I'm embarrassed because now people are sorry. I can see people now. And I'm thinking they don't know that I'm climbing out. Like I could be climbing in to avoid paying the money. Like I was just so mortified. And as a newlywed, I could not believe that my husband put me in this awkward spot. And then all he does is just jump over it. Like no problem at all. Right. So he just jumps over it. And then he looks at me like, have you never taken a PE class? Like, how can you not swing your leg over and just fall these 3 feet? He just could not understand, like, why are you so freaked out about being at the top? So after it was all over, of course, it was one of our first times, as newlyweds to be like, man, I do not understand this person. Like, I do not understand why you would make me go over a fence. And him thinking, I do not understand why you are so unathletic that you could not do that. And it just was this picture of in your marriage, your spouse pushes you to do things, learn things, face things. They might be physical moves to another city because you get another job. It could be the kind of move where it's like, I wanted to send my kids to private school, but you wanted public school and you're working through that, whatever it is, and you're not comfortable because it's new. So what I learned from that is they make amazing experiences. So someday you will look back at this being uncomfortable and you will say, this grew me. It grew us together. It helped us understand each other better. So if you can enter those uncomfortable spots, knowing that someday this will be funny, let's get to that point, and it will help me understand my spouse better. And I'm willing to learn and to stretch. And actually, if I just sit on my couch and eat Cheetos in my little Snuggie, I'm comfortable, but I'm not really growing. So embrace those parts of your life that are uncomfortable right now.
I love that you brought that up, Arlene. As Steve and I look back on our marriage, I think I would never be where I am today had I not married Steve Harling, because my Steve has always pushed me off the edge of the next cliff. I like to say, he's the man that loves adventure. I kind of loved security. I wasn't really the risk taker. He's the one that has pushed me. And, he's always like, oh, you'll be fine. You can do it. And we have gone into countries that are, closed countries to share the gospel. And we have done all manner of crazy things. But looking back, I'm able to say, Steve Harling gave me the world, literally. And he pushed me to go beyond my limits. And I think as wives, we don't always like that. Um, Even if we're the type of person that likes adventure, sometimes I think as wives, we like to bring up our own adventures and not necessarily take the
We like to
stroke from
control
our
the
husband.
adventure. Yes.
Yes,
Be in charge, be in charge of the adventure.
right. And your husband sounds like mine. I mean, he always pushed me, and he's a little bit of a rule breaker. I'm more of a rule follower. And but looking back, we have so many hilarious memories, and the things that I got upset over, maybe 25 years ago, I don't get upset over anymore. I just, roll my eyes, go with it, and laugh, because but there's beauty in that. And so I love that. And, sometimes when wives come to a marriage, and this was certainly me as a young bride, Steve and I got married young. I came with suitcases of emotional baggage. He came with emotional baggage. And I thought, okay, now we're married. We are going to live in eternal bliss. And he's just going to bring me flowers every day. He's going to make me happy forever. Talk to us a little bit about happiness.
Yes, that we place that on our spouse. I remember we met and married in Virginia Beach where they have a Krispy Kreme donuts. Okay. And then we moved to Dallas and then we moved to San Diego. And in San Diego at the time, there was not a Krispy Kreme donuts, but then it came to town. And one day James came home. We were living in a little condominium and I opened the front door to greet my sweet husband and he had a box of Krispy Kreme donuts. And I was so thrilled. Like, I cannot believe this. This is just the most exciting thing I have seen in a month. I was just like, thrilled. And he knew I have made a critical error because the box was empty and it was a joke. It was a joke. And he had brought it from the break room. Like, he thought it would be so funny. He brought the empty box from the break room and he was like, gotcha. And then and that is like what you're saying. We expect you're going to bring me these Krispy Kreme donuts. You're going to make my life like all this bliss. And then it's not what we expected. And then on the husband, he's thinking, oh, she's going to come to bed in like Victoria's Secret every night. And, here I've waited for my wife and I've been godly and now God is going to bless me. And every night you're just going to be like, hey, baby, here I am, So both people come to it. He used to tease me because I wore this Old Navy brand t-shirt that I loved. And it literally said the Polar Bear Club and it had a polar bear on it. And it was cotton and it was so soft and I loved it. And he was just like, oh my word, if you could get rid of that Polar Bear Club shirt and wear something else to bed. So we need as wives to recognize it's not just us. Like, we think, why doesn't he help more with the kids? Why isn't he all sensitive? Why doesn't he offer to help me with dinner? Well, he's also thinking, why is she so centered around the children? Why doesn't she pay attention to me the same way she paid attention to me when we were dating? Why doesn't she look at me admiringly and approvingly like she used to do when we were dating? So all those things to remember, it goes both ways. And for us as wives to think, okay, how can I admire, respect, appreciate my husband like I did when we were dating? And then for our husbands to think like, how can I love, court, woo her, like when we were dating? And of course, this is not automatic. That's why books are great. Tackling a new marriage book a year is a wonderful rhythm. So making marriage easier, it's just one of many resources out there to help you be like, okay, I need new eyes for my spouse, and I need help.
Yeah, because life happens, right? I mean, and I know for Steve and I, we walked through seasons. I remember the season where I walked through cancer, and I was too tired to get off the couch, and that required Steve stepping up to a whole new level. And then there are the seasons, some of our moms are there where your children maybe are toddlers and you're like, Victoria's Secret, I can't even get my leg out of bed, I'm so tired. So I do love in your book that you have a whole chapter called "But We Had Sex Last Tuesday." that is a great chapter title, by the way. And just I would say, and I can say this because we've been married for 45 years, just even keeping a lightheartedness about sexual intimacy and enjoying the fun, and not making it some, I don't know. I think sometimes as wives we can make such a big deal out of it, and that can ruin the spontaneity of the moment. Some of us are planners, some of us are spontaneous, but learning how to just love your spouse for who they are in it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about really once kiddos enter the picture, which is the case for all the listeners probably of this podcast. We've all had kids at some point or another. And you can talk about making your spouse the priority when your kids are toddlers, but that continues even when they're teens, even when they're in college, even when they're adults later. It's your spouse really needs to come first. So let's talk about that a little, Arlene.
Yeah, I'm going to attach even the thing you said before about intimacy. So with your spouse, we will say like, oh, you are the priority relationship. But then we'll think like, what is my affection showing? What is my time management showing? What is my willingness to help you showing? And, having two in college and one in high school, now I am living what people have been telling me. Arlene, your children will grow up, they will leave. And it's really important that when they leave, you still like your husband. That's kind of the subtitle, how to love and like your spouse for life. So you still have to have things in common, things you talk about, like that the kids are not the thing that knit you together, so that every conversation isn't around the kids, that you're only comfortable together when the kids are present. But then when the kids are not there, it's kind of awkward. Like, what are we supposed to talk about? Like, Junior's not here to take all the attention. I'm not cutting up meat. What in the world am I supposed to be talking to my husband about? And that's what date night is wonderful for, because it just forces you to be alone with your spouse and realize, I remember mom telling me, we went on, they hadn't dated, their kids were 5 and 3. They hadn't gone on a date like the whole time. And I was really encouraging her, just go out. And so she said, we went out, but it was so weird. We were just like sitting there, and then we walked around the mall, and then we had no idea what to do because we're so used to the kids filling all that air and space and conversation. So she said, honestly, Arlene, it was really awkward and really kind of weird, but they did it to their credit again, right? And again and again. And they got to the point where it's like, okay, now this is finally not weird. We can be at dinner together. And so you almost are relearning how to be together again. So do that. So that date night, Brad Wilcox at the University of Virginia, he found that if people would just date once a month, so once or twice a month, and only half of married couples did that. The other half of married couples said that they dated a few times a year. So that's kind of how that played out. But if you will date your spouse once a month or maybe more, you will experience a 15% boost in like not likely to divorce, better communication, better love life, better stability, all those things just by dating once a month. And also how we were talking about, but I had sex last, I know I've done this before. My husband one day when the kids were small, he was like, how Ethan thinks about Legos all the time? Because our son was super into Legos. He's probably 5, always talking about Legos, what the new set he wanted to get, playing with Legos, etc. He's like, that's how men think about lovemaking. They think about it that often. And I was like, no. And he was like, yes. And I was like, you're kidding me. So just understanding like, hey, we're wired different, but God must have had a reason. Sometimes it's the woman more than a man. So it doesn't have to be the woman, but the idea there is, even research shows, if you can talk about intimacy, you can talk about these subjects, you are 94% more like, if you are talking about sex, if it's okay to talk about frequency, to talk about like, hey, this isn't really working well because we're so tired and oh, I have all these children. Like, what do we do? If you can talk about it, that's the wonderful first step, because 94% of people that say, yes, we can talk about it, also say, yes, this is going well. So I think just the openness of it not being a weird thing, and that's all of marriage. And then the last thing I want to say about this particular, like your husband versus your kids, can you wait for your husband as much as you can wait for your kids? So for instance, when I have to pick up my daughter or they have practice, let's say tennis practice, and I know like, oh, I have to drop them off, but it's not really worth it for me to come home and come back. So I'll just bring a book and I'll just hang out for an hour and a half. And I kind of do that without complaining. Like, okay, I'll just do that. I'll just bring a book and I'll hang out and I'll wait for you. It's like if my husband said to me, bring me to this place, hang out for an hour and a half and I'll come out, I'd be like, you're on your own, buddy. Like there isn't, right? So do we treat our spouse with the same kind of patience, that we do our kids?
Yeah, I love that. And I want to go back to what you were saying about dating. Steve and I learned early on that we needed one date a week. And so many people said to us, well, we can't afford to do that. Listen, Steve and I were poor. We were in ministry. He was a pastor. And our answer was we can't afford to not do that because we have to stay connected. Now, sometimes that meant, it was much easier once our youngest got in preschool, because then what we would do is go to one breakfast a week while everybody was in school. We didn't have to pay a babysitter. But even when we paid babysitters, it was still worth some money because we were investing in us. And now our kids are all adults and married. We have 14 grandchildren. And, I watch them invest in their marriage and go on date nights and invest in each other and go to fun things together. And that keeps the fun in your marriage. So don't say we can't afford to go on a date, because I would challenge that with, you can't afford to not go on a date. because you and your husband do need to be friends all the way through and even after the kids are gone. And like Arlene said, and when you date your husband and you're just having fun together, it adds such a richness to your marriage. So don't buy into that lie, hey, we can't afford a date, because you can. There's a lot of cheap stuff to do too, right? So have fun. One time my son and his wife built a tent in their living room. They sent their kids over to us and they sat in the tent in their living room eating chocolate pudding and watching a movie.
Oh my goodness. And that would be so memorable, right? Like you could make a commercial out of that. Like that's
Yes, you could. You totally could. All right, we are almost out of time, and I know everybody's really enjoying this. And I want to get to engaging in activities that your spouse likes. And I think that this is so important because, for Steve, his love language is hiking. So, I remember like maybe 10 years ago, I asked him, okay, what's disappointing in our marriage to you? And he said hiking. And honestly, Arlene, I couldn't even believe it because we go on hikes, but the man could go on a hike every single day for the rest of his life. And so I had to really go before the Lord and ask him to renew my love for hiking. But on those hikes, it is so rich and rewarding. We are able to pray together and be outdoors together. So let's talk a little bit about what our spouses really love, the activities they love, and how you nurture a love for those same activities so that you can be good friends in addition to being good lovers.
I love you and Steve because we can all learn from you. So my husband, James, is way more athletic than I am. One year for Christmas, I got ice skates. Do I want ice skates? No. Another year for Christmas, I got rollerblades. Do I want rollerblades? No. Another Christmas, I got a gi, which is like a wrestling outfit for martial arts. So this tells you
That
how
one's my favorite. I want to see that next time we're together.
Oh yeah, I could take a picture of it. I'll take a picture of it, send it to you. So I get this so much. So my sweet husband will think, I love this activity. I want Arlene to do it with me. And we have experienced a lot of yes, this worked. No, this didn't work, but we just kind of keep trying. So please hear me. It is, if you like it, I will try it. Right. So I have tried these things, but I don't ice skate. I don't rollerblade. We've kind of figured out when you put things on my feet, it kind of freaks me out. It kind of freaks me out. But we have landed on some things that we can do. We play ultimate frisbee in the park every Sunday, which is, think of it like soccer, but with a frisbee. So it's a lot of running and making goals. And we started doing that with our kids in 2020. And we still do it every Sunday with community people. And it's really fun. So I'm not awesome at that, but I'm capable enough to do it. So I kind of see these activities as you become proficient enough that it's fun, but you don't have to be like super good at it, because the main idea is that you were willing to try it, because a lot of wives are not willing to try it, right? So there is that win of having fun together. And two, a lot of people surprised it was James's idea to do ballroom dancing. So that's the other thing we are doing, is we're taking lessons and we dance together. We do the waltz and the foxtrot, and we're not great again, but we're getting better. And we just figured, we're in our 50s, and we figured dancing is the kind of thing you can do in your 60s, 70s, 80s. And we thought, how cute would that be? So that's been actually really fun for us. So you do try different things. Some things will stick, some things will not. And then I know you wives are like, well, wait a minute, will he do stuff for me? Yes, he will. So maybe your husband will go be patient and go shopping with you, and he will bring a book. Maybe he will go to a vacation location that you like. It's not his favorite, but he'll try it. I like the amusement parks. James likes the hiking. So, so once in a while he will go to an amusement park with me, so it is that like give and take between. But as a wife, you are discovering, okay, what is it that my husband likes and what could I be okay with? And the enjoyment will come through being together.
And, I think it's so important in that, to keep curiosity alive in your marriage. It's so easy with work and paying bills and getting kids out the door. to just grow bored. But don't let boredom hit your marriage. Stay curious, keep asking each other the questions. One of the interests that Steve and I both have is soccer. We're huge soccer fans, so we love it. So, and right now we really love Miami because Lionel Messi plays for them. And so we watch that, together, and it's been fun. And there are some things that Steve likes that I don't like. Like he likes this car show where they remake cars, and I don't know, it's something about rust. But if I'm in the room with him and he's watching that and I'm reading a book that I like, he's happy and content because I'm there with him. I don't have to be into the show like he is. Every now and then he'll say, "Oh, look at that, Beck," and I act like it's cool, and then I go back to reading. But the main thing is we have to keep the fun in our marriage. We have to keep curiosity alive and keep loving well. I want to say this to those of you moms that are listening in, and we are so out of time, but I want you to know that it is worth the effort that you will put in. As I said, we've been married, Steve and I, for 45 years, and we were just in Costa Rica in January, and we were taking a hike, and we were talking about some of the places where it was rough in the beginning or whatever, and some of the things we learned along the way, and some of the healing that's taken place in both of our lives. And I was like, I had this thought, I wouldn't trade this for anything in the world. Is it work sometimes? Yes, it is. But in the end, you are going to be so thankful you put in the work, because there's nothing like being married for a lifetime. And so, Arlene, thank you for writing this book. Where can our listeners get in touch with you?
Yes, I have a Happy Home podcast, and Making Marriage Easier is the book. You can get it wherever books are sold, and you can go to makingmarriageeasier.com, and there are free date night ideas that are cheap and all those things.
I love that. So, friends, thanks for joining us today for this conversation. It's been so much fun to talk to Arlene, and it's been so much fun to talk about marriage. And here's the thing, the stronger your marriage is, the more secure your kids are going to feel. So put the effort in, ask God to give you wisdom, to stay curious, and to make your marriage work, because that's really what he has in mind for you. And certainly there are exceptions, like we talked about. If you're in an abusive marriage, seek help right away. God doesn't want you to stay there. But in the general scheme of things, if you're married, stay in it and work at it, because the treasures at the end are worth it. So thanks for joining us today on The Connected Mom, and we hope you'll join us again next week for another episode. And hey, I know you liked this episode, so would you please share it with your friends, because chances are they might need a wake-up call in their marriage as well. So thanks for joining us today.